I'm going to take you to April 15, 2015, the premiere of When I Live My Life Over Again. What, if anything, did you do for that premiere?
I believe that premiere was in New York City. It was a small independent film I shot. I went back to New York to attend the premiere.
Michelle, can you bring up Defendant's Exhibit 421, please? Does this accurately depict the scene portrayed in this picture?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'm going to move the admission of Defendant's Exhibit 421.
Any objection?
No objection.
All right, 421 in evidence.
May we publish to the jury? Thank you. Amber, could you please describe for the jury what this picture is?
That is a picture of me a few months, I believe this is April of 2015, so it's a few months after the March incident that happened in Australia, early March, in which Johnny held me down on the countertops and my arms were cut on the glass in that attack.
And if we could draw attention to your arm there, are those scars? What are those? Please describe for the jury what those are.
Those are scars that I obtained while Johnny was strangling me and assaulting me on the countertop in Australia.
Okay. Michelle, can you bring up Defendant's Exhibit 423, please? And does this accurately portray the scene shown?
Yes, that's...
Hold on a second. I'm going
Yes.
to move the admission of Defendant's 423, please.
No objection.
423 in evidence.
Thank you. May we publish? All right, and please describe to the jury what this shows.
It is a picture of me on a red carpet. You can see my scars. Even though I have makeup on them, they're a bit harder to cover because they're rather fresh.
Okay. Now, after this, in April of 2015, you returned to Australia with Mr. Depp, did you not?
Objection leading.
Overruled, I'll allow it.
Thank you.
Yes, we did.
Okay, and tell the jury about that trip.
Well, after Johnny was able to get clean off of the coke and the other drugs enough to get the hand surgery he needed, there commenced a period of time of sobriety for Johnny. His doctor had fired him and then came on when Johnny agreed to get clean.
Objection hearsay, non-responsive.
Don't say what, I mean, we've already had, Your Honor, we've already had the testimony from Dr. Kipper, but don't say what Dr. Kipper did, just tell the other part, just don't say what somebody else said. Okay?
So there was this period of sobriety after that, and Johnny was very committed to being clean and sober, and I thought we had finally done it. We finally did it. We were through it, and we were never going back, meaning he was going to be clean and sober for good this time, and we had a wonderful period of, we fell back in love, or deeper in love than we were before. It seemed things were so good. We were talking about a future again. We were talking about having kids. I mean, when Johnny wasn't using it, it was so peaceful. We had a good time together. We went back to Australia like that, in that state, and had a few months. We even had my parents come and visit us in Australia, and we were talking about babies and about buying a farm and, looking for homes in California. And we were in a really beautiful, peaceful period. It was wonderful. It was wonderful.
Now, did you stay at the same place that you did the earlier time in Australia?
We went back to a very remodeled version of that home. Very cleaned up version of that home. Same walls, same structure, but looked a bit different, as you can imagine.
How did you feel going back to that home, given what had happened in March, early March?
The home isn't the problem. If you're living in domestic violence, you don't just not go home. You don't just not go into the kitchen just because you were slapped in that kitchen. People living in domestic violence live in their homes. That's almost, the home isn't the problem. That's the normal part of your home. And for me, Johnny was my home. Where we were a couple was my home. And that home was often really violent. But it wasn't the structure itself. It was Johnny. And when we went back to Australia, that home, Johnny, was in a completely different, he had done a complete 180. Clean, sober, present, calm. We were peaceful. I mean, any of the gripes and the problems that he seemed to have about me went away when he was sober. And so we managed to go back to that same house, but in a very different way. It felt very different.
June 16, 2015, the Magic Mike Tour. Where did you go for that tour?
While I was in Australia, I got the call for that press tour and went to Europe for the press tour for that movie. And, I was nervous because problems arise when I'm having to work, when I leave.
Objection, non-responsive.
That was still responsive.
Well, sustain the objection. Next question.
Michelle, can you please bring up Defendant's Exhibit 447? And I'm going to ask you first, does this accurately portray the scene depicted?
Yes.
Your Honor, remove the admission of Defendant's Exhibit 447.
No objection.
447 in evidence. You can publish.
Thank you. And Michelle, if you could zoom in just a little bit closer. Amber, could you tell the jury about this picture?
Yes, that's me on the red carpet promoting the Magic Mike movie I was in. You can see the scars on my body, on my arms.
Okay.
You can't see everything, of course, but...
Okay. And Michelle, can you bring up Defendant's Exhibit 449? And Amber, does this accurately depict the scene portrayed?
Yes, it does.
Your Honor, I'm going to move the admission of Defendant's 449.
No
All
objection.
right. 449 in evidence. Publish.
And Amber, could you please describe to the jury what this portrays?
This is, you can see the scars on my arm from that attack. Also around this time, Johnny was calling me on the phone before and after, while I was doing these press events, and sometimes I would be on the phone with him, kind of managing accusations about why I didn't pick up sooner, didn't text back sooner, and sometimes I actually on this tour many times had to delay getting out of the car or...
Objection, non-responsive.
I'll ask that. How did Mr. Depp react to your going on this press tour?
He was very upset with me. I just remember crying on the phone with him a lot and having to hang up to go do press events.
All right. Thank you. Now, I'm going to take you to the Southeast Asia train trip. That was your honeymoon trip, correct?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And that was July 25, 2015?
Yes,
Yeah.
it was.
Okay. Michelle, I'm going to ask you to bring up Plaintiff's Exhibit 162. It's already into evidence. Now, Mr. McGivern testified that he took this picture in July of 2013. Would you agree with that?
Objection, misstates prior testimony.
That's exactly what he testified to.
It was
It
Malcolm.
wasn't.
I have the transcript.
I don't know. Go ahead and ask your
It's
question.
Mr. McConnelly.
Is that correct?
I believe Malcolm Conley took this on the Orient Express.
Malcolm Connolly, not Travis McGivern?
I believe it was Malcolm on that trip with us, yes.
Okay, and was it in 2013 or was it 2015?
It was in 2015,
Okay.
July.
And please describe, if you can, what transpired during this trip.
Well, the train trip itself was peaceful up until Johnny wanted to start drinking brown alcohol. He had already started drinking champagne. When I returned from the press tour, that's what he was drinking, wine and champagne. When he wrapped on Pirates 5, the plan was for us to do this honeymoon. I was walking a bit on eggshells because I know a pattern, but I was not wanting to accept that we had gone back to a pattern at all. And so we were on this train, and on the last night we were on the train, after this was taken, this photo, Johnny and I got in an argument about him wanting to be allowed, meaning him wanting me to agree to him drinking liquor and being okay with it. And an argument followed that in our sleeping car. Johnny slapped me across the face and held me up by got a hold of my neck and pushed me up against the wall of the cart. It was a small, narrow sleeper cart, and there were 2 beds, one on each side. He had me up against the wall while he was standing on the floor in between the beds, and I was on the bed, kind of half kneeling, half standing, trying to get his arms off my neck, and he was squeezing my neck against the railway car for what felt like a very long time. And every time he kind of would pull me away from the side of the car, he'd slam me up against the wall. And I remember looking down at him and trying to get his arms off of my neck. And I remember thinking that he could not even mean to kill me. I remember being scared that he wouldn't even mean to do it. And kind of looking down at him because I was slightly above him as he was standing on the ground, and kind of clawing at him, trying to get him to, his arms away from my neck. I remember I had at one point he ripped the top of my shirt. I don't really remember what it was, but I remember I had a breast exposed. At some point, I pull at his lapel of his shirt, and he rips the shirt off of him and wraps it around my neck. And that's how I woke up. The next morning, actually, I woke up with it still around my neck and with a giant knot in the back of my head.
Did you keep a diary at that time?
Yes, I did.
Michelle, can you bring up Defendant's Exhibit 461?
Objection, hearsay.
It is a diary, Your Honor, and I will just ask her some questions about it rather than trying to admit it into evidence at this point.
All right. I'll wait for the question. Go ahead.
What, if anything, do you recall about recording what transpired on that train?
Objection, hearsay.
I'm just asking her whether she did. I'm not asking what she recorded.
All right, I'll allow it. Go ahead. Overruled.
I wrote about what happened that night the next morning.
Thank you. Now, did Mr. Depp suffer any injuries on that trip?
Not that I saw. I have a lot of pictures from that trip, and he's uninjured.
Okay, thank you. You can take that down, Michelle. Thank you. Now, I'm going to keep you in July of 2015, and Michelle, I'm going to ask you to bring up Depp Exhibit 390A. It's a recording, and I'm going to be asking about from 3:30 to 4:12. I'm going to move the admission, Your Honor. It's another recording between Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard. There's nobody else in
It's
there.
plaintiffs, what number was it?
It's plaintiffs, it's 390A.
Okay. Any objection to 390A?
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Okay.
May we approach?
Okay.